Hey, thanks for joining us today, Daniel, Sarsha. We create videos to share our perspectives, our truth, our experiences to maybe help you along your journey.
Help support and give you some guidance, or at least some comfort that somebody else is going through the mess with you.
Yeah, because we're really all in this together. I mean, we all affect each other. We're all affected by everything we're all a part of. So, and Finding Hypnosis is all about helping you find your, holistic, eternal nature of self as infinite source, whatever that may mean for you in each of those words.
So part of a question we had earlier today was talking about what to do to strengthen that, or the sense of urgency hits you and you're going, oh gosh, now I need to change my life, or things need to change, or I'm starting to look at it.
Or even without the sense of urgency, just someone maybe living a good life, but then realizes, could there be more? Could there be more depth and more adventures and more possibilities, right? A life of more freedom, more magic.
So I always call it kind of like a switch was flipped, back of your head. All of a sudden you're like, blink, light comes on and you're like, wow, your eyes are open. There's all sorts of things you can say, but there's this movement within your body that goes, there's something greater and there's a bigger calling. So some people will go into urgency, some people will just be like, what the hell? But it's literally like a switch about this area. Sometimes it feels like. So in the Bindu spot, if you want to follow what that is, you can go into deeper chakra work. But it's like this little switch goes click, or in your heart starts to open. And how do you continue to keep that growing? How do you continue to expand on that? And how do you allow that to step into your life and be your guidance system? For me, that requires constant practice and constant allowance, and also allowing the concept that you're going to fuck up with this, because a lot of times people step into spiritual practice and it has to be right, but a practice is something you do daily, consistently. Tools for myself that I've worked with are art was my big step into awakening. I would draw and doodle all the time. I still draw and doodle, but it allows myself to be quiet, and that's really when you're developing sort of your intuitive muscle or starting to really listen to yourself. You have to become, and I'm going to use the word have to, you have to become still. You have to become quiet. And that's really, really hard right now because we have so many distractions in our life and we have so many excuses not to do any of that stuff. And some of them are valid and a lot of them aren't. But when I talk about being quiet, it doesn't have to be sitting and meditating for hours and days. It's finding like 5, 10, 15 minutes where you are just still. And stillness for me is actually movement. I don't do very good being a still person. For me, it is doodling. For me, it is walking with my dogs without musical interference or anything like that. It's when I start to really engage and have conversation with myself and clean out the crap. And when I'm having conversation with myself, I know it's my higher self I'm talking to because it's supportive and it's loving. If it starts to get like down the path of fuck this and blah, 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 that's not the helpful me. That's not the me that's me. That's a voice that's been trained to be cruel and keep me small. So when you're starting to really get into the practice of following your intuition and following your higher calling, the first step is finding space to be quiet in, to find time to just be present, and focusing on something that's really beautiful or really enjoyable. So that's why we love nature. Nature is the status of all and status quo of beauty and everything. If you need to find quiet time, hang out with a tree, get more plants in your house, go to whatever garden space you can. Don't go with earphones, don't go with any electronics, just go and see how long you can do that for, and then build your muscle that way. And you'll find that you will start to hear the answers and messages that your soul really needs you to listen to. And you can do this at home. A cup of tea. I have an Irish descendancy, so a cup of tea solves every problem. And the same thing, no distractions when you're having the tea. You're there and you're present with the tea. That's why when you're talking about meditation and stuff like that, they're always talking about be present, be blah, blah blah. I get annoyed with the rhetoric. But really the simplicity and the quick thing is, this is just about getting enough silence to hear the good parts of yourself. Because the good parts of yourself are very quiet and very calm and very loving. The rest of it is noise and abrasive, and that's not you. That's just shit that's not rattling around. You are naturally a calm and loving and present person and being. That's just who we are. And everything now is forced to get you to that. So find time to start to strengthen the calmer muscles, and you need to be quiet to start to really hear the whispers. And then the whispers will start to build, because they'll be like, oh, she's gonna listen, or he's practicing, so we can start to speak with more authority, and we can start to really communicate and start to co-create. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So that's, for me, is my practice, and I do several of those things every day. So start with one and build from there. But for me, I'm constantly, my work is an intuitive reader. My work is building my intuitive muscle. My work is teaching people to do that and helping people step into living abundant and creative lives, whatever that resonates for them, because each person's version is completely different. So you gotta start with finding space first.
Like, I personally have always been very busy mind, monkey mind, 1,000 miles an hour all my life. And of course, growing up in Western society with, American pop culture, and I grew up on it. And just so I've always felt the need, just like everyone around me, to keep entertaining myself. But over the years, especially, I saw more and more as I started to become aware of the energies I was entraining myself to, whether it's through movies, TV, video games, the music, and just activities, people, like, is more and more, bit by bit, just bringing in practices, like starting to practice yoga and go to yoga classes in my early 20s. That started creating spaces for me to start being just present with my physical. Realizing the gift of yoga is really to, go through like an hour, even more, of different postures that are intense, that kind of force you to focus in, so that at the end of the class in Shavasana, you can have a few moments of meditation. That's like the true purpose of asana yoga, whereas Western society has turned it into its
Making
own,
your ass
just
look good.
completely about the workout, the exercise, the
Yeah.
go hard, go home mentalities with all the imagery of what being a yogi is all about. But in fact, it's really there to cleanse all the static in the mind, the toxicity in the body, so that you can have a few moments of peace in Shavasana. So with bringing that into my life and creating some spaces for stillness and presence to come up, and therefore being able to feel my heart's voice, my soul's calling and whispers. And then through that whisper started to guide me with making better and better decisions to what I entrained myself with. So, and I started started reading. I hated reading all throughout until my early 20s. Just like,
I'm a reader.
I was
constantly reading.
I was such a slow reader, didn't bother with it. I always started to just fall asleep whenever I tried to read anything. But over time, it's just one step at a time, bringing it into my life as I started to expose myself to different perspectives of people who are actually free, not the ones who are consuming the most or making the most amount of money in order to experience the most amount of stuff, if you will. And but it doesn't mean that some of those aren't free. I'm just saying everyone is different, and allow yourself to start becoming aware of the differences between different people's experience, and recognizing, someone living a very simple life, they may be much more content and free within themselves and in their life than someone making a lot of money but is just crazy busy and doesn't really have time for, themselves, family, friends, right? So some are just career addicts, but some love it, and that's great. So, but more and more, it was finding my own path, and I chose to wake up through pop culture as I began to lighten my vibration, clear and cleanse my consciousness. I then became more and more aware of what I was taking in with all my senses, and then through my choices, slowly began to enlighten all my choices. And that's how, so it's about, you can take the path of least resistance, resistance to struggle and just like,
It starts with choice.
yeah.
Like, all of this is choice, and I think that's the most that's the hardest thing for people to grasp. But this is a choice. Everything is a choice. You choose to be an asshole, you choose to be sad, and okay, and I know people are gonna be like, well, I have that, and I totally understand that there are chemical things, but you have to start to take complete this, and this is the hard thing for our culture and Western culture, and I see this every time. We have an insane inability to take divine responsibility for ourselves. We will over-responsible for other things or things that don't matter, but the responsibility is solely in self, making choice that makes me happy, that is in alignment with me. Allowing the bullshit judgment that I am making and perceiving others are making towards me to not color how I live. That's really important, and it's really hard, and it's practice. That is one of the hardest practices, is stepping into divine choice by choosing things that allow you to really resonate and really feel what you want to do. But first, you have to start choosing enough space to hear those things, because most of the time we're like, I get exhausted just looking at how much comes out of Daniel's brain, because it's constantly going. I luckily, through lots of training and lots of time outside and just really I'm really good at giving the middle finger at people who piss me off, in the concept of, you're trying to control my life and you don't even know how I want to live, and you're not listening to what I have to say about me. I'm good. Then it's about finding those moments, though. Like, I escaped into the wilderness all the time, as much as I possibly could. I skipped school because I couldn't handle the crap that was coming out of people's mouth there, and that always led me. I would find beautiful coffee shops to sit in and just soak in the amazement of how cool people really are. And those little spaces and those pockets are what allowed me to develop my abilities. But not only that, that's how the universe got at me. In those moments where I was wandering in nature, a bizarre person would wander across your path and say the perfect thing at that perfect moment to totally shift a perspective. Sitting in a coffee shop when I thought no one would see me, someone would sit down and say something that would be the perfect thing. And that's listening to those threads and finding those moments of peace that really help you develop that. And you can't do that if you're not creating the moments to do that. Another thing which I always find really fascinating about me and Daniel is, Daniel started working with the body. He found his peace through really working hard and really watching his food and really taking care of that physical thing. That is such a valid way to start waking up. I went to the top. I went and started really developing my spiritual muscle and really working through my heart and really opening those ways. And then I'm starting to move down and he's starting to move up. So wherever you need and whatever you choose to find those calm spaces, whether it's working out or it's finding a moment to eat a most delicious piece of food, this is all valid as long as you're giving yourself the space to truly embrace and enjoy. I hope that wasn't too long of a rattle.
Because you want to find that your equilibrium, your center, and that's in your heart. That's, where and your heart and your gut. So, and we're all the bridge between heaven and earth. And so I started with cleansing my earth body, if you will, and that really, bring really cleansing and eating better and better choices for me. And, Saoirse started really opening up her heavenly connection to her divinity and her spirit, and deepening her wisdom and perspectives and teachings, and then more and more she's moving down and empowering her heart, and then now more and more empowering her physical, her earthly body, so that we can build that bridge as that the bridge. And that's what we're here to do, is build bridges, because we all chose parents who modeled the density model.
Thank you for that amazing
especially
sign.
Most of us who are
It's
chose to be
beautiful.
light workers and chose to be the
Have a great
forerunners
day.
of awakening,
Thanks.
of
Bye, darling.
of
Bye.
wanting to bring a difference and a change to our families, the cultures, our community, the town, whatever. So it's about recognizing that, recognizing, some of the patterns that you went through and how they were not what was best for you. And then as you start to evolve and grow up and become more autonomous, independent, just learning to create your own patterns and experimenting, but realize you can bring more and more joy into the equation, and bringing a sense of adventure into your own life. Like, for many years, I just barely went out to the house. I literally thought I had agoraphobia, because I definitely had intense social anxiety. For me, going through really intense emotional, never having my emotions truly being nurtured when I was growing up, and therefore in my teenage years had no idea how to handle them, and therefore, I even went through an eating disorder in my early 20s. I went through a bulimia, but as I started to, I know I chose that in order to get myself to a place of great suffering and pain, so that I can then start to learn how to step out of that and in my own way. And as I stepped out, then I started stepping out of that basement room I lived in for so long and started venturing out into the world. And that's where I encountered the greatest synchronicities and the teachings and experiences, because we are all here to evolve through our experiences with other people, with life.
Sorry, I just want to slide in for a second. I just want to make a point there. The universe can only get to you if you engage with the universe.
Yeah.
That is really important, and that's why a lot of people, I think, in my opinion, are falling apart. Is there's no longer an engagement with the universe.
Yeah, and not just the screen, not just through the screen.
Yesterday was so funny I drove by the bus, and there's two ladies with their phones like this, and I'm thinking, those are two remarkable people that might have something that they both need to share with each other to expand their world, and your face is stuck here. So if you want, and I'm just going to slide in, sorry honey, because what you're saying was beautiful, I apologize, but if you want to get your intuitive muscles stronger or anything, you have to engage with the world. Done. Sorry, continue. Thank you.
Yeah, because I personally was so introverted and shy. It's so hard for me to interact with people, especially strangers. But I started going to different classes. So if you have a lot of social anxiety, go to more supportive spaces where you can have just one-on-ones, and slowly allow yourself to, one layer at a time, open up, talk to people you're comfortable with, but also, be willing as you develop a sense of strength. But as you take good care of yourself and start to do things like meditation and different healing practices, you'll begin to heal those anxieties, and you'll start to become calmer and more stronger for yourself, because you gain confidence by doing what you know would be best for you to do. And that often starts with diet and just sleeping better and just doing the things you want, and not drinking so much and not going to that party or hanging out with those friends that you really don't want to anymore, right? So allow yourself to gain that confidence by choosing what you know would be best for you, and that will give you the strength to become more adventurous, and then venture outside and actually start interacting with the world, and be willing to allow what happens in your life, like the things that happen to your body, like whether it's injuries or whatnot. Be willing to listen to what your body is communicating to you, because the body is actually much more intelligent than sometimes the brain is.
The body, I'm just going to slide in, the body is way more fucking intelligent than your brain. Your brain is not your friend.
It's a tool.
Your brain is a tool for you to remember certain things, to learn, to sort of be aware. It's not even about awareness. It's just a fucking tool.
But that's just the problem when people rely on technology too much, and therefore it's relying on that limited brain and their perspectives too much. So it's just these programs, just like a computer or a cell phone. They're just inbuilt program based on limited perceptions and experiences, not the holistic approach, which is the body and the nature. So allow yourself to be, infused and guided by creativity, the art, the things you love. Allow yourself to be inspired and evolved by the things you love.
Take your time. Just take your time with it. Be very patient and make it a practice. Yeah. So we'll close it up. Thanks, everyone.
Just enjoy your life more and more then, and go out there and be willing to allow life to guide you to the adventures that you're meant for. All right.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Toodles.
Take care.